With the biggest story of the day, and that is the news that DeWanna Bonner is no longer with the Indiana Fever. It was reported last night that DeWanna Bonner had no intentions on returning to the Indiana Fever, and then the news broke today that the Indiana Fever had indeed.
Dana Bonner has officially walked away from Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever in a shocking move that felt like pure betrayal and sent tremors through the entire WNBA. But her ambitious attempt to force a move to another team has blown up in her face in spectacular fashion. Now she's being quietly shut out by every franchise. She's lost major money, and her reputation is burning down. This is the story of how a trusted veteran completely wrecked her own legacy in just a few weeks and the swift karma that came with it.
She said, "I want to sincerely thank the Indiana Fever for the opportunity to be part of the Fever franchise. Despite our shared goals and excitement heading into the season, I felt the fit did not work out, and I appreciate the organization's willingness to grant my request to move on, particularly at this point in my career. I wish the Fever great success as they continue to build around this dynamic group."
The announcement first surfaced through a polished, emotionless press release. The Indiana Fever revealed they had approved Dana Bonner's request for a contract separation. In her official message, Bonner politely thanked the franchise for the chance to play and vaguely insisted that even with shared objectives, the overall fit simply wasn't right. She wished the young roster the best as they continued developing. On the surface, it looked like a peaceful, professional breakup. But that polite exterior was hiding a far more complicated and chaotic reality.
If another team claims her off the waivers, she gets her full salary. She gets her full salary if another team claims her off the waiver.
Beneath the carefully softened language, a respected veteran was actively abandoning her team in the middle of the season, triggering a wave of tension in a locker room already desperate for stability. This wasn't a chemistry issue. It was a calculated decision to walk away from a roster full of young, developing players who had relied on her leadership, leaving them to handle the overwhelming spotlight surrounding Caitlin Clark entirely by themselves.
That makes DeWanna Bonner look really, really bad. It makes DB look really, really bad. And it's the fact that she has told all other teams, other than the Mercury, don't sign her.
When a player's contract ends in the WNBA, they are immediately placed on waivers. That means for the next 48 hours, any of the other 11 teams can claim Dana Bonner and take on her full guaranteed $200,000 salary for the year. For a three-time All-Star with championship experience, getting picked up should have been automatic. It was essentially a free asset for any franchise needing veteran help, a proven scorer who could lift a contender or mentor a rebuilding roster. The countdown began, but when the 48 hours expired, the only response was a stunning silence across the entire league.
And look, I understand that's where she wants to go. Why didn't she go there in the summer? We know why, because she couldn't have got her max contract. And by the way, people are like, oh, they can give her the minimum. No, they can't. The Phoenix Mercury can give her a prorated $80,000 salary for the rest of the year. So she's only going to lose about 30k-ish. And she's only going to lose, she's going to lose about 40, 50k. Whereas they would have been only able to sign her earlier on. Well, they would only be able to sign her for nothing. Because again, we can't forget as well, the Phoenix Mercury cut Seb Uzen. The Phoenix Mercury have a bunch of players signed on hardships and a bunch of players that they can cut. Like they literally cap space magicked up, and as soon as cap space magics up for the Indiana or for the Phoenix Mercury,
not a single team put in a claim, and every franchise in the WNBA looked at the situation and collectively decided she wasn't worth the trouble, not even at no cost. That moment shattered any illusion that this had been a friendly separation. It was a league-wide rejection, a massive warning sign exposing just how messy her exit truly was. As the dust settled on her waiver process, the startling reason behind the silence began leaking from behind the scenes. Bonner was reportedly orchestrating an aggressive power move. According to insiders, she was personally contacting teams and telling them not to claim her off waivers. She was trying to manipulate the entire system to force her way to one specific destination, the Phoenix Mercury. The boldness of the tactic is unbelievable. We've seen stars in their prime, like Jimmy Butler, blasted for forcing their way out of places they disliked. But Bonner, a 36-year-old veteran clearly nearing the end of her career, was acting with the entitlement of a league MVP. She wanted to handpick her next team as if she were a free agent, ignoring the fact that she had walked away from a binding contract. She expected to quit her job yet still control exactly where she ended up. But her grand scheme had a fatal weakness, one that exposed the foolishness of her gamble and turned her dream destination into a possible nightmare. The Phoenix Mercury, the very team she had upset the entire league trying to join, was reportedly hesitant to sign her. Sources said the Phoenix front office was genuinely worried about adding a player who had just shown such a shocking willingness to quit the moment adversity appeared. The Mercury were building strong chemistry with a young, motivated roster that had fully bought into the system and was exceeding expectations. Why risk disrupting that balance for someone who had just proven she couldn't be trusted when things get difficult? Bonner had left Indiana assuming Phoenix would welcome her with open arms, only to learn the far shore wasn't nearly as warm as she confidently believed. The financial cost of this miscalculation was just as severe as the damage to her image. By clearing waivers unclaimed, DeWanna Bonner automatically lost the rest of her guaranteed $200,000 contract with the Indiana Fever. When she finally signed with Phoenix, it was for a prorated veteran minimum deal for the remainder of the season, earning her around $80,000. Basic math exposes the painful truth. She willingly walked away from more than $120,000. This wasn't a clever business strategy. It was a huge self-inflicted financial disaster created because she overestimated her leverage and thought she could dictate terms to the entire league. Her pride and failed power play cost her a six-figure payday, a catastrophic blunder that made her appear both selfish and shockingly misguided to executives and fans. But the real damage wasn't only to her bank account or her reputation. The true emotional fallout was felt by the one person who needed her veteran presence more than anyone, Caitlin Clark. When Bonner signed with the Fever, she was publicly presented as the steady, experienced mentor who would guide the rookie superstar through the unprecedented chaos of her first season. In early practices and preseason games, Clark was visibly excited to team up with her, putting in extra work to build chemistry and learn from the established veteran. But instead of providing leadership, Bonner showed her and the entire young roster that when the pressure spikes and the spotlight grows harsh, you can simply quit and walk away. It was pure professional abandonment. For one of the first times in her remarkable career, Caitlin Clark was essentially told by a respected veteran that she didn't want to play beside her. That's not leadership. It was a deep betrayal of trust that plunged the team and its brightest star into turmoil. And this raises the most disturbing question of all. Was this shocking move planned from the beginning? The timing feels almost impossible to ignore. Bonner first signed a lucrative high-profile deal with Indiana, allowing her to soak up the massive media attention and spotlight that came with playing next to Caitlin Clark. For weeks, she appeared on magazine covers and played in sold-out arenas, benefiting directly from the Caitlin Clark effect. Then, almost exactly when the Phoenix Mercury conveniently freed up enough cap space to add a player of her level, Bonner suddenly decided the fit in Indiana was no longer right for her. It feels far less like a spontaneous decision and far more like a calculated, pre-planned strategy. Use the Indiana Fever for the paycheck and the massive media spotlight, then engineer a dramatic exit the moment her preferred destination opened the door. If that's the truth, it isn't just unprofessional, it's a deeply cynical and deceptive way to treat an organization, its roster, and its fans. Perhaps the most incriminating part of Bonner's actions isn't what was said, but what wasn't. In professional sports, there's an unspoken code. Players often protect each other. When an athlete clashes with a team or believes they've been wronged, you usually hear other players, especially veterans, come forward in support. But after Bonner's departure, nothing happened. A heavy silence spread across the league. No one defended her. No teammate praised her choice. That lack of support speaks volumes. It's a clear sign her peers didn't see this as a noble stand for player rights. They saw it as a selfish betrayal that violated the trust of her teammates and the standards of the sport. The silence becomes its own quiet judgment, proof that even those who know the pressures of the league couldn't justify her walking away. Beyond the personal controversy, Bonner's actions have created a dangerous problem for the entire WNBA. Her mid-season exit sets a terrible example that could undermine the value of player contracts. If a respected veteran can simply quit on her team and manipulate her way to another with little immediate punishment, what stops other frustrated players from doing the same? This could spark a wave of instability, encouraging athletes to abandon commitments whenever they feel unhappy, turning contracts into hollow promises. This is especially harmful for small market teams like Indiana, who depend on contract security to build competitive rosters and cannot compete with the allure of bigger cities. At a time when the WNBA is growing fast and fighting to cement its place in mainstream sports, having a veteran behave so unprofessionally sends a damaging message about the league's reliability. It creates the impression of a league where disorder could erupt at any time, a perception that could chase away investors and fans alike. In the end, DeWanna Bonner reached her goal of joining Phoenix, but at what price? She scorched her reputation across the league, lost more than $100,000 in salary, and will now be remembered not as a champion or a respected leader, but as the player who walked out on Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever. Her actions set a dangerous expectation that contracts are optional and a player's personal preferences can override professional responsibility at any moment. In an era where player empowerment is often celebrated, Bonner's story forces us to confront the line between empowerment and entitlement, between fighting for your future and simply abandoning your duty. She may have discovered that line, and in crossing it so dramatically, she may have permanently damaged her own legacy.